Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today we're going to talk about evolutionary trait types. So, evolutionary psychology is basically how um, evolution determined our emotional state. So, the idea is just like we have physical attributes that developed for evolutionary reasons, and of course, the goal was to help us survive, right? So, the things that happened helped us to survive the environment that human beings were in many, many thousands of years in the past. And those things that helped us survive were considered adaptable or good. Now, not good in the inherent sense, but good in that if we survived, it's good, right? Because that's what life wants to do, survive. And so certain things, walking up straight and, having two eyes, stereoscopic, and, those kind of things, the ability to reason, these were adaptive, an opposable thumb, and evolutionary psychologists study that emotions have an evolutionary purpose. For example, perhaps the emotion of anxiety developed to let us know if we were being inappropriate in our group. In thousands of years ago, we lived in small groups. And if you were doing things to harm the group, they could exile you, and that usually meant death. So some people think that maybe perhaps anxiety developed as an emotion to warn us not to do that. We don't want to get thrown out of our group. Some people think that depression, that when people are sick, they get depressed, and then they tend to isolate. So if a person was sick and they got depressed and they isolated, they'd have less chance of giving the disease or the illness to other people. Some people also thought that depression might have developed because of if you had the alpha male. Depression would make you more submissive, and you wouldn't feel the need to challenge the alpha male, create chaos in society. So, anyway, the idea is that our emotions didn't just come from nowhere. Our emotions developed as a way to help us adapt and survive to our environment. Fear, for example, fear of animals or snakes or the dark, because in those days, those were frightening things. Today, much less so. How often do we, interact with wild animals and with snakes? Certainly, if we are living in the suburbs and the big cities, it's very rare. Now, some people believe that we were all descended from the Paleolithic times, 100,000 years ago, and so we all have Paleolithic minds and bodies and emotions that really were more adapted to a long time ago rather than recent. But some people have argued that that's not true, that we continue to evolve, especially in the emotional realm, even as little as maybe 5 or 10,000 years ago. And these ideas are we developed from the hunter-gatherers, which is the oldest, and then the pastoralists or the herders, and then the farmers. And it is clear that we live in a farmer world. Farmers organized, hierarchical, 9 to 5, wake up early, go to work, obey authority, that kind of thing. And so we are living in what is considered to be a farmer world. If you remember from school, the Neolithic Revolution and farming and cities and the rise of jobs and specialization, things like that. So we do live in a farmer world. But what if you inherited genes where you have more dominant genes or traits that are more of a farmer, more of a hunter-gatherer or a pastoralist or a herder? Well, that kind of indicates that maybe you're not quite a good fit in our modern society. Maybe that's why you feel like an outsider, or you feel some distress, or you feel more anxious and depressed. So let me give you an example of the three, and this is by Andreas Hofer. He had written a couple of books, and he has some blogs on this. He kind of identified and expanded that we're not just descended from hunter-gatherers, that herders and pastoralists and farmers also have a big impact on our emotion. And in fact, people that have the most mental health illnesses might be more hunter-gatherers because they tend to be more egalitarian, more free thinkers. And a lot of people with ADHD and some anxiety and depression might be more hunter-gatherers than farmers. So let me give you a quick rundown on the difference between some of them. Okay, so Hunter-gatherers tend to be you see the bell curve, they tend to be in school. The gifted students and the students that are placed in special education. They tend to have the longest lifespan. They tend to be the least risk-taking. They are very open and humble. They have more late onset puberty. They tend toward monogamy. They tend to be more night owls. They're less interested in small talk. They're more idealistic. They tend to think in the big picture, in the abstract. Very often they were picky eaters when they were kids. They were more prone to depression and anxiety. So that's the hunter-gatherers. And they grew up in an environment where they were small groups, and you were with each other all day, and you didn't work 9 to 5. You kind of were roaming around, and you needed, each other to support each other, and you had to kind of hyper-focus. That's why some people with ADHD tend to be more hunter-gatherers, because you're kind of focusing on a lot of different things and all over the place, scanning the horizon. The pastoralists, or the herders, are somewhat of a risk taker. They're the least fearful, and they have the shortest lifespan, at least historically. They are very extroverted and open. They had early onset puberty. They tend toward being more promiscuous and polygamous. They're reluctant to get married. They have higher divorce rates. They're more status oriented. They dislike routine and tend to be more arty and creative. They tend to have more extreme views, either left wing or right wing. And farmers, which is the world that we live in today, we live in a farmer world, they have medium risk takers. They have an average fearfulness and a medium kind of average lifespan. They are high on being very conscientious. I did the Big 5 personality in the previous video. They're conscientious and agreeable. They have the average age of onset for puberty. They tend toward monogamous, although they can stray as their status and wealth increases. They want to get married, but they want to wait to have children until they're more established. They are status-oriented. They love routine, and they're very industrious. They tend to be more conservative. They're more hardworking. They have a higher interest in small talk. They tend to rise early and be a little bit more materialistic. They tend to care more about traditions. They're more practical and concrete and detailed. So these are some examples of the farmer type, the hunter-gatherer type, and the herder or pastoralist type. And again, it just explains why some people have an easier time fitting in our society, and some have a more difficult time. Because if you have a hunter-gatherer brain and an outlook and personality traits, it's more difficult. Same thing with a pastoralist or a herder. It's kind of like a mismatch. You're not quite in the environment that is most suited to your traits. And that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that finding your place and finding things that nurture you and make you feel comfortable is a major goal. So one, it's just kind of knowledge is power, right? And then how do you use that knowledge to make yourself as happy and as content and as fulfilled as you can? And that's kind of what evolutionary psychology tries to help people do. I hope you found this interesting, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.